For 20 years, the football world was obsessed with a single archetype, the oligarch. We looked for the Russian billionaire on the yacht. We looked for the Middle Eastern sheikh in the private jet. We looked for the American tycoon with the cowboy hat. We thought that to own a football club, you had to be a sugar daddy, a singular, visible, all-powerful figure who would pour money into the transfer market like it was water, purely for ego and glory. But in 2026, the oligarch is an endangered species. The era of Roman Abramovich is dead and buried. If you look at the recent transaction logs of the Premier League, La Liga, and Serie A, the headlines about club sales have virtually disappeared. Nobody is buying clubs anymore. Instead, they are buying slices, a 10% stake here, a 15% stake there. The new owners don't have faces. They don't have names you will ever chant in a stadium. They have acronyms: Arctos, Ares, RedBird, Dynasty, 777. These are private equity firms. They are not fans. They are asset managers. They are not here to win trophies. They are here to capture alpha, excess return on investment. The invasion is silent. It is boring, and it is infinitely more dangerous for the soul of the game than any Super League proposal. The club you support is no longer a community asset. It is a line item in a diversified portfolio managed by a computer in Connecticut. Welcome to the era of the silent owners. To understand why this is happening, we have to look at the balance sheets of Europe's elite clubs. On paper, a club like Liverpool, Paris Saint-Germain, or Tottenham Hotspur is incredibly wealthy. They are valued at 4, 5, maybe 6 billion euros. They own state-of-the-art stadiums. They have global brands. But in reality, they are trapped. They are asset-rich, cash-poor. Think of it like owning a £10 million mansion but having £0 in your bank account to buy groceries or fix the leaking roof. You can't pay a striker's transfer fee with a brick from the stadium wall. You need liquidity. You need cold, hard cash. But where do you get it? You can't go to a traditional bank. Interest rates are too high, and banks hate the volatility of football. You can't sell the whole club because the valuation is so high, £5 billion plus, that there are only about 50 people on Earth who can afford it, and most of them are politically toxic or simply not interested. Enter the private equity firms: Arctos Sports Partners, Dynasty Equity, Ares Management. These are private equity firms. They are not fans. They are asset managers. They are not here to win trophies. They are here to capture alpha, excess return on investment.
It seems like the perfect deal. The owner gets the liquidity to solve their immediate cash flow crisis without losing control. The fund gets a foot in the door of a scarce global asset. Liverpool did it with Dynasty. PSG did it with Arctos. Chelsea did it with Ares. It is the financial equivalent of taking out a second mortgage to pay for a renovation. It feels good today, but now you have a silent partner at the dinner table. But why do these Wall Street firms want just a slice? Why not buy the whole thing and take all the glory? Because the smart money realized something crucial around 2022. Owning a football club is a nightmare. If you own 100% of Manchester United, you are the lightning rod. When the team loses, the fans protest outside your house. The media investigates your taxes. The government scrutinizes your visa. The glory is fleeting, but the stress is permanent. But if you own 15%, you are invisible. You are the silent partner. If the team gets relegated, the fans scream at the chairman. They scream at the sporting director. They don't scream at the private equity fund in New York that owns a minority stake. The fund gets all the upside of the valuation growth, the asset appreciation, with none of the reputational downside. Furthermore, a minority stake is a liquid asset. Trying to sell a $4 billion football club takes years. It is a diplomatic incident. Trying to sell a 10% stake worth $400 million, that is easy. You can sell it to another fund, a pension pot, or a sovereign wealth fund in a matter of weeks. This strategy is pure risk mitigation. The funds have realized that football clubs are trophy assets, like rare art or vintage wine. You don't need to own the whole museum to make money, you just need to own one painting that goes up in value. They are riding the wave of the Premier League's media rights growth without getting wet. It is the most cynical, efficient play in sports history. If buying a slice is level 1, then level 2 is the portfolio approach. This is where the term multi-club ownership, or MCO, stops being about football strategy and starts being about investment diversification. Look at a firm like RedBird Capital. They own AC Milan in Italy, they own Toulouse in France, they have a stake in Fenway Sports Group, Liverpool. They don't treat AC Milan as a sacred institution, they treat it as stock A in their portfolio. If stock A, Milan, has a bad year, maybe stock B, Toulouse, has a good year and sells a player for profit. The risk is spread. But there is a dark side to this. We have to talk about the cautionary tale, 777 Partners. This Miami-based firm went on a shopping spree, buying stakes in Genoa, Sevilla, Vasco da Gama, Hertha Berlin, Standard Liège, and trying to buy Everton. They weren't building a football project, they were building a house of cards.
They were moving money between clubs to plug holes, using the assets of one team to secure loans for another. It was financial engineering at its worst. When the house of cards collapsed, it wasn't the fund managers who suffered most. It was the historic institutions, Hertha Berlin, Standard Liège, that were left hollowed out, drowning in debt, and facing existential crises. This is the danger of the portfolio approach. To a private equity fund, a football club is just a ticker symbol. If the algorithm says sell, they sell. If the algorithm says liquidate, they liquidate. There is no sentiment. There is no loyalty. The fund manager doesn't care if Vasco da Gama gets relegated, as long as the aggregate value of the portfolio hits the target return of 15%. And this brings us to the terrifying conclusion, the endgame. Fans need to understand one fundamental rule of private equity. The money has a lifespan. A typical PE fund has a life cycle of 5 to 7 years. They raise money from investors, pension funds, endowments, in 2025. They promise to return that money plus profit by 2030 or 2032. This means there is a ticking clock attached to your football club. The fan owner, the sugar daddy, wants to hold the club for decades. They want to pass it to their children. The PE owner must exit. They have a fiduciary duty to sell. So what happens in 2030 when Arctos, Ares, and Dynasty all need to cash out at the same time? They will need a liquidity event. This pressure will force clubs into aggressive decisions. 01. Forced sales. We will see clubs put on the market not because it's the right time for the club, but because the fund's clock has run out. 02. Asset stripping. If they can't sell the stake, they will demand dividends. They will demand the sale of the stadium. They will demand cost cutting on the academy. 03. The Super League 2.0. Why are these funds so confident? Because they are betting on a breakaway league or a closed-shop US-style model. They need to guarantee revenue to ensure their exit multiple. The push for the Super League didn't come from the fans. It came from the financial projections of the silent partners who need to guarantee a 3x return on their capital by 2030. They cannot afford relegation. Therefore, they will eventually try to abolish it. So, the next time you celebrate a strategic partnership or a minority investment in your club, keep the champagne on ice. You haven't found a partner. You have taken out a loan with the most ruthless shark in the ocean. The sugar daddy might have been an egomaniac, but at least he wanted to win. He wanted to lift the trophy. The private equity firm doesn't care about the trophy. They care about the EBITDA. They care about the valuation multiple. And most importantly, they care about the exit. The invasion is complete. The owners are silent. The boardrooms are quiet. But make no mistake, the soul of the game hasn't just been sold. It has been securitized, packaged, and traded on a spreadsheet in Lower Manhattan. And in 5 years, they're going to want their money back.